The second day, Zhuo Yifan was meditating in his room at the tavern when hurried footsteps closed in. Captain Pang rushed in with an anxious face. Sun Clan has us surrounded outside. Slowly opening his eyes, Zhuo Yifan evoked an odd smile. They're finally here. Why are you so calm? Zhuo Yifan walked outside without a care. I've been waiting for them. Tell the siblings to come out too. Captain Pang couldn't help but roll his eyes helplessly. Zhuo Yifan was the official Luo clan steward and called young miss and young master in others' presence. But when they were alone, he had no such restraints. If it were the past, Captain Pang would have gone the distance in enacting the clan head's rules. But he got used to the tough-looking but soft-hearted Zhuo Yifan. He had the habit of criticizing the siblings on and on, but he was the first to jump in front of them when the need arose. Just like yesterday, when he rebuked Luo Yunchang for speaking out of place and coming close to ruining their deal. Although wronged at the time, the young miss knew when they saw Long Ju leaving that Zhuo Yifan had done a great favor for the Luo clan. With how the rundown Luo clan turned in 1,000,000 spirit stones, they wouldn't be in the precarious position of living on the streets or relying on others. What was most important was Long Ju's evaluation of Zhuo Yifan. As long as the Luo clan had him, it would soar. A capable man stands at the top. Captain Pang rubbed his chin, taking one last look of admiration at Zhuo Yifan, then went to get the siblings. Soon, Captain Pang accompanied them to Zhuo Yifan in the tavern's hall. Luo Yunchang still bore the marks of grievance from yesterday's tongue lashing on her face. Let's go, young miss and young master. Zhuo Yifan gestured outside with his eyes and Luo Yunchang snorted as she pulled her brother along. The tavern keeper opened the doors with a creak. Luo Yunchang showcased her young miss qualities by shifting her posture and expression to ones worthy of such status. Zhuo Yifan even sighed inside that she was a prime example of a clan's lady. 30 Sun Clan guards stood outside. Qi condensation experts. In the lead was Sun Yufei and a tall, dignified young master. He held a fan as his ghostly eyes roamed over Luo Yunchang's lithe figure. Noticing his gaze, Luo Yunchang shifted hers to Sun Yufei. Why has young Miss Sun brought so many people to look for us? Humph, why ask when you already know he offended this young miss in the Kai manner? Sun Yufei pointed with hatred at Zhuo Yifan. I will make sure to wipe out all of the Luo clan today. Luo Yunchang knitted her brows and pulled Luo Yunhai tighter. But a look at the relaxed Zhuo Yifan eased her tension. It was in these moments of extreme danger that Zhuo Yifan dissolved all problems, be it in front of Kai Rong or even Long Ju. His cunningness and meticulous planning pulled them through. In front of those two experts, these people were nothing. Luo Yunchang knew, as long as Zhuo Yifan was calm, the matter was as good as settled. Seeing Zhuo Yifan unflinching, Luo Yunchang began to smile, lifting her chin with confidence. My Luo clan had lorded over Windgaze City for centuries. You think we'll bend over just because you say so? Young Miss Sun, your clan has only been here for just a few decades. Please watch your tone. Luo Yunchang had finally recovered the lofty bearing she had in the time of Luo clan's prosperity. Such confidence left others speechless. The audience reduced Sun Yufei to a shrew servant while raising Luo Yunchang to a noble lady. Noticing their expressions, Sun Yufei's face was inflamed. Bursting with yuan qi, Luo Yunchang, I will teach you the meaning of a fallen clan. She charged for her and Captain Pang rushed to protect his young miss. But before they could meet, a fan rested between them. Cousin, Sun Yufei watched him with bloodshot eyes. Without paying her any attention, he showed respect towards Luo Yunchang. Young Miss Luo, please forgive my cousin's lack of manners. We have come to your home for your steward to seek justice for my cousin. It does not concern young miss. If you hand him over, I guarantee not to harm any Luo clan member. Cousin, didn't we say we're going to destroy them? Why? Sun Yufei was panicking, but he covered her face with the fan. I could also bring back the glory of old to the Luo clan. No need, Zhuo Yifan is part of the Luo clan. If you're looking to trouble him, you're dealing with the whole clan. If you have any complaints, come to me. I am in charge of the Luo clan. Luo Yunchang stood fearless before all. losing his smile. The youngster shook his head. I urge young miss to not be taken in by emotions. If you knew who I am, you might not say the same. Frowning, Luo Yunchang glared at him. I am Yu Quan, a disciple of Hell Valley. Luo Yunchang was shocked and took 2 steps back. That's 7 noble houses? HHHA. Scared now? Sun Yufei laughed with pride. Everyone, besides Zhou Fan, sported grim expressions. There was no reason to fear meeting Longju since they were negotiating. But in this case, they were at odds with the Hell Valley. Any from the 7 noble houses needed to only lift a finger and a mortal clan would fall or thrive. No wonder even the clan head Kai Rong saw the Sun Clan girl with importance. Her clan had a connection with the 7 noble houses. Zhou Fan, Luo Yunchang grabbed his hand as her voice trembled. With a reassuring smile, he stepped forward. I am Luo clan's steward. Zhou Fan, what do you think of fighting one-on-one? Humph, cousin was right. You are an arrogant slave. Sneered Yu Quan as he approached him. All of us against someone like you will smear Hell Valley's reputation. With his last word, a whoosh sound traveled and Yu Quan disappeared. Zhou Fan's eyes narrowed, somersaulting backward. When he looked forward, a trace of blood flowed down his face. As blood dripped from his cheek, the youth now occupied Zhou Fan's previous position. Humph, so you've managed to dodge it. Yu Quan eyed him evilly, as if he was toying with him. 6th layer of qi condensation. Demonic cultivator. Zhou Fan squinted and smiled. Interesting. When Yu Quan attacked like a demon. If Zhou Fan wasn't a veteran demonic cultivator, it would have killed him, but this revealed Hell Valley's nature. That of a demonic faction. If another met such a problem, he'd have a hard time coping. Demonic cultivators gained power through any means. Filled with danger and ruthless natures, righteous cultivators took the opposite approach, taking it one step at a time. They weren't as impressive as demonic cultivation experts, but they hardly encountered problems in cultivation. And this explained why, despite only in his 6th layer, Yu Quan was far more dangerous. Yet Zhou was in the 2nd, and 4 layers difference would make him hard-pressed even against a righteous cultivator. Luck had it though that Zhou Fan was an old monster in demonic cultivation. Knowing his fair share of its arts and methods, this was his only hope of success. Are you all right? Luo Yunchang was anxious, watching the blood trail down his cheek. He wiped the blood and showed an excited smile. It wasn't that he never fought with higher layers before, just that they were all righteous cultivators. This was his first encounter with a demonic cultivator in this situation and began to enjoy the novelty of it. Fight. Even if the Luo clan wasn't here, it was still important to go through with this fight for the sake of his meticulous schemes. This fight followed no logic, as his boiling blood dictated his movements. The bloodthirsty look in Zhou Fan's eyes caught Yu Quan off guard. Common sense told him his first move should have robbed Zhou Fan of his life. And even if he escaped by some miracle, he'd be scared witless. But instead of fear, Zhou Fan showed thrill and thirst for battle. Can it be? Yu Quan thought of something but was forced to block. Bam! A blood palm exploded in his hand, pushing him back again and again. When he finally stopped, his hand was dripping blood. Cousin, be careful. Even Kai Rong suffered from this palm. Sun Yufei advised. Yu Quan frowned, his casual expression turning grave. This is going to be a pain. Never thought I'd meet someone like him. He saw Zhou Fan sporting a grin and he sighed inside, while also raising his vigilance. If I had known, I wouldn't have caught myself in this. Demonic cultivation had a single pursuit: power. Meanwhile, the righteous path followed set rules to form a solid foundation and advance one step at a time. Because of this savage pursuit, demonic cultivators were seen as madmen, resorting to any despicable means to further their might. This was why righteous cultivators feared them. Fighting them was tantamount to fighting a madman. With this knowledge in mind, Yu Quan began to regret fighting Zhou Fan. Despite being confident in his success, fighting an unscrupulous demonic cultivator would be sure to come with negative repercussions on his part. I need to settle this quickly. Yu Quan's eyes flashed with murderous intent and dark blue energy came out of his palm. The air around him chilled in an instant and even Luo Yunchang, who was 10 feet away, felt the cold biting her. She was aware of its danger and her heart was in a panic. But before she could warn Zhuo Fan, Yu Quan turned into a black shadow and charged. All the flowers along the way wilted. High mortal rank martial art. Hell Claw. Bam! The blackish cold energy struck Zhuo Fan's chest until the latter spat blood along with pieces of ice. Humph! I have your heart. No matter what you're trying to do, it's useless. Yu Quan was pleased his sudden strike worked and relaxed. There were 4 layers of power between them. And even if demonic cultivators, no matter the weird techniques or savagery, once one's heart was in a vice, he couldn't use most of his power. It was the same as being powerless. Sun Yufei cheered at her cousin's success. Kill him, while Luo Yunchang and the others were nervous, nodding inside. Despite knowing his cousin was rash and prone to anger, Yu Quan had to admit her words this time were true. A demonic cultivator enemy must never be left alive, because a demonic cultivator's vengeance will always be ruthless. Now, another dark blue palm aimed for Zhuo Fan's head. Humph! Die! Luo Yunchang and the rest were in shock, hearts in their throats. But following an explosive sound, Zhuo Fan's head was fine while Yu Quan was flung like a ragdoll, trailing a bloody arc in the air. Blood palm! Zhuo Fan bellowed, staying in the move-executing stance. That's impossible. Yu Quan crawled to his feet and clasped his chest with an incredulous expression. I sealed your heart. How can you still use martial arts? Humph! There's nothing bro Zhuo Fan can't do. Luo Yunhai stuck his chin out as Luo Yunchang and the others chuckled in relief. But then, Zhuo Fan spat out another mouthful of blood. A sudden hole was now adorning his chest, which leaked blood. What's going on? Luo Yunchang was stunned while Captain Pang rushed to support the collapsing Zhuo Fan. Only Yu Quan understood and cackled. He seemed to have exploded his heart on purpose when I used my skill on him to break out of Hell Claw's grip. He won't have long to live. What did you say? Luo Yunchang was nervous, ignoring her. Yu Quan ridiculed the hazy-eyed Zhuo Fan. Such a pity. If you were at my stage, your move would have ended with mutual destruction, but it ended with quickening your death. Even hurt, I can finish you off. He rushed for Zhuo Fan and, though his speed dropped, it wasn't something Luo Yunchang and the others could cope with. No, Luo Yunchang jumped in front of Zhuo Fan with her arms spread. Yu Quan sneered, he, young Miss Luo, I would hate to kill you. Whoosh! The Luo clan members saw Yu Quan's claw but were powerless to stop it from approaching Zhuo Fan's head. Yu Quan wanted to kill Zhuo Fan in front of them. Sensing the incoming danger, Zhuo Fan gave out a strange smile. Bam! Suddenly, the blackish claw was caught in a vice-like grip. Mid-mortal rank martial art. Hidden dragon claw? Yu Quan raised his head to find a warm face greeting him. It belonged to a youth of around 18. Dressed in golden clothes and a scholarly face, yet having a sharp pair of eyes. Long Jia? Yu Quan gnashed his teeth. Sun Yufei was in shock. Veiled Dragon Pavilion? Yu Quan, do you need to kill for every little mistake? Long Jia smiled. Humph, that's my business. Butt out. Shaking his head, Long Jia might look kind, but there was a certain determination in his eyes. I was ordered by Uncle Zhu to protect the Luo clan. If you want to kill him, you have to go through me. Why is the Veiled Dragon Pavilion suddenly? Sun Yufei trembled, never imagining the Luo clan could gain the help of Veiled Dragon Pavilion. The Sun clan was under the protection of Hell Valley, and even though the Luo clan only had 4 people, they had the Veiled Dragon Pavilion to back them. Based on background, the only clan that could fight the Sun clan in Windgaze City was the Luo clan. This deflated Sun Yufei's superiority. A clan under Veiled Dragon Pavilion's backing was bound to rise. Gazing at Luo Yunchang, Sun Yufei hardly hid the hatred in her eyes. Humph, Long Jia, we have the same strength. You think you can protect them? Yu Quan looked at Zhuo Fan hanging by a thread with killing intent. With a serious face, Long Jia said with coldness, Yu Quan, don't forget your wounds. Think you can match me as you are now? Before he could retort, Long Jia said, I know what you want to say. That a demonic cultivator can show 120% of his power. But if we fight here, It will incur an open war between our houses. Are you prepared to bear such responsibility? Yuquan hesitated. Hell Valley and Veiled Dragon Pavilion were of the 7 noble houses, yet also at odds. It was only a matter of time till war broke out. But not now. If he ruined his clan's plan, he wouldn't be able to bear the repercussions. Just when he nodded, a hand grabbed at his chest. He rushed his yuan qi in a panic to block the attack. But a sudden blood energy messed up his control. In but an instant, the hand pierced his chest and gripped his heart. Didn't your master warn you? In a battle with demonic cultivators, never let down your guard or you will forfeit your life. A familiar voice reached Yuquan's ears while his eyes were greeted with Zhou Fan's evil grin. Why you can't? Yuquan was in shock. Zhou Fan was on the brink of death yet now had the energy to move around. But what was even more baffling was that he was stronger and faster than when Zhou Fan first fought him. Everything was clear now. He fell in his trap. And not just him. He turned to the equally shocked Long Jia with an imploring gaze. Save me, die. Zhou Fan's demonic voice echoed in the two's ears and both shouted. No, it was too late. Zhou Fan already gouged out Yuquan's heart. Blood flowed like a fountain from Yuquan's chest as he collapsed. He didn't want to fight a demonic cultivator since every move was planned and vicious. Cousin, Sun Yufei cried in pain as she walked in a daze to his body. Sun Clan's guards took her and left in a rush. They no longer had a backing and this place was filled with Veiled Dragon Pavilion's men. The calm Long Jia, witnessing death for the first time, swallowed dryly and turned to Zhou Fan. He saw the still beating heart in Zhou Fan's hand and broke out in a sweat. He saw his fair share of demonic cultivators but Zhou Fan horrified him the most. If he compared them, those demonic cultivators he saw were noblemen when up against Zhou Fan's methods. You're the one Grandpa Zhu sent to protect us? Thanks for the help. Please send him a message that we no longer need protection. Zhou Fan flung the heart and clasped his hands. Long Jia returned the gesture with a bitter smile. Then he left without a word. Like a defeated general. 6 hours later, inside Veiled Dragon Pavilion, bam! Long Zhu smacked the table in a fit of anger as his only eye was on the verge of popping out. Long Jia and Long Kui stood with heads bowed, not daring to make a peep. Never thought I'd see the day I Long Zhu, who moved unhindered across the world, was had today by a brat. To think he would ruin all of our clan's plans. Long Kui hesitated and asked, Uncle Zhu, I do not understand. What does Zhou Fan's sneak attack have to do with Veiled Dragon Pavilion? Foolish child. Long Zhu cursed. Jia was there and was at odds with Yuquan. Everyone saw it. That punk killed Yuquan right before Jia. You tell me, who will the blame will fall on? Luo clan. Long Kui said like it was obvious. Long Zhu laughed as he shook his head. Long Zhu explained, Little Kui, do you believe a small clan would dare to kill a disciple of the 7 noble houses? Long Kui shook her head after thinking it over. Long Jia continued, if even you don't believe it, then Hell Valley and Sun Clan will surely refuse to. They will blame us. What? But that will mean we're the ones down on our luck. Why should we be the Luo clan's scapegoat? Humph, luck. All of this is the work of that punk. From Jia, I understand the kid was on the verge of dying when he arrived. Even if Yuquan wanted his life, he couldn't do anything since Jia stopped him. Then he sneak attacked him with a stronger move than in the beginning. This clearly states how cunning he was and that he planned ahead. What, does that mean he knew brother Long Jia was there from the start and targeted Yuquan? Long Kui exclaimed, sighing. Luo clan shook his head in helplessness. Silly girl, not only did he plan against Yuquan, but he also included Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Hell Valley in his calculations. Our houses would fight while his Luo clan escapes. Impossible. Isn't he afraid of offending 2 houses? He thought this one out too. When he sold us that drawing, he already ascertained our house's position. If we attack them or ignore the Luo clan's plight, it is the same as showing weakness in front of Hell Valley, damaging our Veiled Dragon Pavilion's honor. Our only choice is to protect the Luo clan. Sigh, he had me from the start. This punk is the most dangerous man I have ever seen. Recalling the previous scene, Long Jia had to nod his head in agreement. Get out. In the dead of night, Zhuo Yifan was trying hard to staunch the flow of blood from his chest while sitting on the bed. Luo Yunchang wanted to help him, but Zhuo Yifan's bellow drove her out. Despite winning against Yu Quan, his victory wasn't a sweet one. If not for his sneak attack, the fight would have been one-sided, a common occurrence when demonic cultivators were involved. But he felt a deep sense of powerlessness from today's fight. Although they were 4 layers apart, he believed himself to be a demonic emperor, that using all his power would have certainly finished off a kid still wet behind his ears. Yet reality showed that not only he couldn't win, but he also couldn't even get the upper hand in the fight. He had to rely on scheming to lure Veiled Dragon Pavilion out in the open and kill his enemy when he least expected by inciting chaos among the houses, while also providing the Luo clan a way out. It all went according to plan. Yet it didn't leave a good taste in his mouth. Too weak to get rid of their trouble with the Kai clan and Sun clan. They got tangled up in the 7 noble houses conflict. It was trading one poison for another. All was quiet for now, but they'd have to face the music sooner or later. Yet, with his meager power, he couldn't protect himself, let alone the Luo clan. I need to get stronger fast. Zhuo Yifan clenched his teeth and performed strange hand gestures as his eyes let out an eerie red light. At this moment, Kai Shouting was meditating in a room when a sudden ache in his abdomen twisted his face in pain. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead and he soon passed out. A bloody light flashed from his abdomen and a palm-sized infant came out. It was Zhuo Yifan's blood infant. At the time he was in Kai Manor, Zhuo Yifan inserted the blood infant in Kai Shouting to control Kai Rong, because his movement was too fast. No one saw him, and under the threat of his son's life, Kai Rong was forced to let the Luo clan go. Thanks to the blood infant in Kai Shouting's body, Zhuo Yifan could monitor their affairs. He would get an early warning to any plan they might come up with. But now, spying on the Kai clan has lost its value. The blood infant saw the unconscious Kai Shouting and let out a sneer in Zhuo Yifan's voice. Humph. I won't take your life so you could bear witness to the fall of the Kai clan. The blood infant then turned into a red light and flew outside. In a dark garden, a Kai clan guard was patrolling when a red light entered his body. He couldn't utter a sound as his body numbed. He soon shriveled up and a light wind scattered him to dust, leaving behind the red glow. In this manner, more than 30 guards disappeared from the Kai clan. In the tavern, Zhuo Yifan snickered and sent Blood Infant for the next prey. He and the Blood Infant were one. When the Blood Infant entered a cultivator, he used the demon transformation art to absorb the person's blood essence and yuan qi for Zhuo Yifan to refine later. He didn't plan on using the Blood Infant so soon, but he needed it to heal his heart, so he might as well reduce Kai clan's numbers while he was at it. The Blood Infant reached the qi condensation, and even an early bone tempering expert would find it troublesome to fight with. As for qi condensation opponents, it would kill them in an instant. If Zhuo Yifan had the Blood Infant on him in his fight with Yu Quan, he could have won without having to resort to any schemes. He could only sigh as he thought of how it was the perfect match to have both the Blood Infant and the demon transformation art. Raising the Blood Infant was very difficult, and even Patriarch Blood Demon only reached Saint stage with it. Yet, thanks to the demon transformation art, Zhuo Yifan raised it to qi condensation after 10 days of hard work in the tavern. He did it during his previous seclusion. The first day he used to bind the Blood Infant and the rest to provide it with blood essence. Since the Blood Infant reached such a level, it was time for it to collect blood essence. And in a clan like the Kai clan, bone tempering experts were rare. So Zhuo Yifan wasn't afraid the Blood Infant would be harmed. This led to an unrestrained hunt as he sucked dry 50 more guards. But just when he planned to wipe away any Kai clan remnants, an eerie energy caught his attention. A demonic cultivator expert? Zhuo Yifan was startled and guided the Blood Infant to the source. It arrived near a small room, where a faint light burned. There were 24 peak qi condensation cultivators standing guard. It stirred Zhuo Yifan curiosity and drew Blood Infant to a window. As for those guards, they couldn't even detect the Blood Infant, not to mention see it. 3 elderly sat in the guest and main seats inside the room. The one in the main seat was Kai Rong. The first seat on his left was occupied by a bald old man with cloudy eyes and exuding a peculiar energy. Zhuo Yifan recognized it in a second. It was from a demonic cultivator expert. The old man on Kai Rong's right wore noble attire, and faint traces of demonic energy leaked from him. It showed he was in the middle of changing to a demonic cultivation method. Yet Kai Rong and the noble-dressed old man were showing great respect to the bald demonic cultivator. Can it be? Zhuo Yifan felt he was onto something when clan head cupped his hands before the bald man. Elder Jian, to what do I owe the honor of your and clan head son's visit? Cloudy eyes stared at Kai Rong until he trembled. It was then that Elder Jian smiled. I'm sure you know that a disciple from my Hell Valley was killed today by a veiled dragon pavilion. Wasn't it done by the Luo clan? Kai Rong let out a dry laugh. You think the Luo clan would have the nerve? Elder Jian laughed as his cloudy eyes shined. The feud between my Hell Valley and Veiled Dragon Pavilion was at a stalemate where neither dared to make the first move and break the balance of the 7 houses. Yet the Veiled Dragon Pavilion used the Luo clan to kill my disciple. What are they aiming for? This made Zhuo Yifan muffle his laughter. Just as he expected. These 7 houses were treated like kings for so many years that they would never believe anyone would challenge their authority. It was because of such raw arrogance that made them believe there was a deeper scheme involved instead of taking what happened at face value. Veiled Dragon Pavilion was no different, willing to accept this injustice instead of showing weakness. Then you visited me because? Kai Rong hesitated. Nothing much. Just help us to spy on Veiled Dragon Pavilion and understand their intent. It seems this event will trigger a battle between the houses. Elder Jian, that's the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. My Kai clan can't afford to offend them. Kai Rong panicked. He thought, why the hell are you 7 noble houses dragging my small clan into this? Shaking his head, Elder Jian said, Clan head Kai, don't misunderstand. There is no need for your clan to go head-to-head with Veiled Dragon Pavilion. It's just testing them. That is, dealing with the Luo clan and observing the Veiled Dragon Pavilion's reaction. What? Luo clan? Kai Rong was shocked. There wasn't anyone in the Windgaze city who didn't know of today's fight between Yu Quan and Zhuo Yifan. That Luo clan was backed by the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Yet here you are asking me to go make a mess of Luo clan. Isn't that the same as offending the Veiled Dragon Pavilion? Kai Rong looked over at clan head son, only to see him smile with a hint of schadenfreude. Damn you, since you're so close with Hell Valley, why don't you go mess with Luo clan? Didn't your daughter make a scene today? But now that you saw them with the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, you don't dare move an inch. Kai Rong felt his tooth itch from hatred but didn't have the courage to refuse Hell Valley. To tell the truth, I hate that punk, Zhuo Yifan, the most. He came to my clan a few days ago to look for trouble. I don't know what evil trick he used, but he made my son cough blood for several days and we still haven't found a cure. If I go after him, he would use the same trick to take my son's life. Peef. Before Kai Rong even finished, Zhuo Yifan could barely hold his laughter. He left the blood infant inside Kai shouting to teach the Kai clan a lesson. But never used it again afterward. He didn't expect the clan head would use such a lame excuse to escape this predicament. Even Elder Jian was skeptical of Kai Rong's flowery speech and his face hardened. Upon seeing this, Kai Rong rushed to present an alternative. Elder Jian, clan head son is the best man for the job and is also close with Hell Valley. Letting him in charge of this task won't disappoint you. Hey, Kai Rong, what are you trying to pull? Clan head son jumped to his feet. Luo clan was a headache and they didn't know how tight its relation was with the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. If he'd instigated Veiled Dragon Pavilion's involvement when he messed with the Luo clan, he'd be ruined. Despite the Sun clan and Hell Valley being related, the former was by no means one of the 7 noble houses. Getting on the Veiled Dragon Pavilion's wrong side was out of the question. It was unknown if the Hell Valley would stick its neck out for the Sun clan. Going after Luo clan was plain suicide. Seeing the 2 clans proclaim loyalty by day and shirking off their duties at crucial times. Elder Jian snapped. Enough, you useless fools. I don't need any of you. I will find someone else for the job. Also, Kai Rong, have you brought your spirit rank martial art? Wind kick? Please inspect it. Elder Jian. Kai clan rushed to present the jade slip. Yet his eyes showed reluctance. Elder Jian. This is the only spirit rank martial art the ancestors have passed down in my Kai clan. Fine, I won't take advantage of you. Snorting, Elder Jian threw him a jade slip. This is the spirit rank martial art. Flaming finger, a higher rank than yours. Kai Rong was overjoyed, expressing his thanks again and again. Zhou Fan standing outside was puzzled. Is Hell Valley muddled to exchange a mid-spirit rank martial art for a lower one? Elder Jian, who did you find to deal with Luo clan? If you don't mind me asking? Ignoring the martial art the Hell Valley bestowed on Kai Rong, clan head Sun asked. Kai Rong pricked up his ears to catch the answer. Snickering, Elder Jian's eyes flashed with disdain. You bunch of dogs, afraid someone might replace you? Humph, relax will you, that person is from Hell Valley. Does the Hell Valley plan to step forward? Why? Kai Rong and clan head Sun didn't mind Elder Jian's disdain and were surprised. With an odd light in his eyes, Elder Jian said, he is a spy we have long planted in the Blackwind Mountain. Blackwind Mountain. Zhou Fan was so shocked his heart skipped a beat and his control over his energy slipped. Who's there? Elder Jian whipped his head and launched a palm attack. The door was blown to pieces as Blood Infant turned into a red streak of light and flew away. Only now did Elder Jian rush outside. So quick, Zhou Fan's shock wasn't small, but luck was with him as the guards were surrounding the place. He grinned and urged the Blood Infant to enter one of them. Blood boil. The guards were in shock as Zhou Fan's shout blew up the guard. With no time to dodge, all the others next to him lost their lives. Elder Jian's figure was blocked by the sudden explosion, allowing Blood Infant's escape. Kai Rong and clan head Sun saw the wretched aftermath and were frightened. What was that? Elder Jian shook his head, yet his face turned grave. I don't know, but it must belong to a demonic cultivator. Whoosh! A red light streaked in the dead of night, passing through doors and entering Zhou Fan's body. Letting out a breath, Zhou Fan opened his eyes as he rejoiced. Fortunately, the Blood Infant was quick to escape or it would have been ruined by the bald elder. He never imagined he'd bump into such a strong opponent in the Kai clan. Even if he couldn't recognize the elder's cultivation, he was certain the elder was no less powerful than Godai Longju. And once Blood Infant was destroyed, because of Zhou Fan's connection with it, it would spell doom for him too. But the opposite was also true. Even if his heart exploded, he wouldn't die as long as the Blood Infant lived, because the moment he bound with the Blood Infant, it became his heart. I need to work harder on improving my strength. His vast experience told him danger was looming. For now, it looked like Hell Valley and Veiled Dragon Pavilion were silent. But the Blackwind Mountain might be the fuse to a disaster with the Luo clan smack in the middle. His fate rested on strengthening the Blood Infant to bone-tempering stage. This was the only way to ensure some semblance of control when he met an expert like Long Ju. Zhou Fan closed his eyes and refined the yuan qi and blood essence the Blood Infant collected. In the next moment, red flashes came from his chest as red energy coursed through his veins to his heart. As the energy gathered, the hole in his chest began to heal. His weak heartbeat soon started pounding with greater force. In but an hour, his chest healed, with not even a scar left behind. If one didn't witness his heart exploding, they wouldn't believe the events of this morning occurred. He continued refining Blood Infant's gathered yuan qi and turning into black energy. One part flowed into his dantian and another back to the Blood Infant. No less than 50 qi condensation experts' yuan qi were refined and propelled Zhou Fan through the third layer of qi condensation and to the brink of entering the fourth layer. With a faint boom, Zhou Fan and Blood Infant broke through to the fourth layer. Zhou Fan was happy. It was so easy to increase one's strength. It was only 10 days ago that he entered the second layer and here he was now in the fourth. But when he wanted to work towards the fifth layer, he found Blood Infant's yuan qi reserves had been spent. He wanted to keep going, but he was satisfied he at least advanced 2 layers in one go. He looked out the window at the clearing sky and walked out to stretch his legs. Now that Blackwind Mountain was coming, he had to find a safe haven for the Luo clan. Zhuo Yifan opened the door to his room, but before he could take a step, a thump resounded and something fell at his feet. He looked to see a drowsy Luo Yunchang getting back up in embarrassment. "What are you doing?" Zhuo Yifan frowned. He poured all his focus on controlling the blood infant last night and then cultivating. So he didn't pay attention to what happened outside his room to the point he didn't detect her. Damn it, how could I become so careless? If it were an enemy instead, I would have been dead. Seeing his angry look, Luo Yunchang was apologetic as she mumbled, "I was worried about your wounds worsening and waited outside. Now that you're all right, I'll be going." "Wait, you stood guard all night?" Zhuo Yifan was shocked. Luo Yunchang blushed and turned to leave with a hurried pace than before. Captain Pang took this moment to appear and saw Zhou safe and sound and shouted in joy. "Brother Zhou, you've recovered. That wound of yours scared all of us to death. Young Miss always stayed at your door, worried for your life. Where is she?" "She left." Zhuo Yifan rubbed his nose and said calmly. Yet warmth grew in his heart. "Damn this heart demon." Zhuo Yifan cursed. How could the glorious demonic emperor feel anything for a mere woman? This must be the work of the kid's heart demon. "Right, old Pang, you came right on time. Come with me to the Veiled Dragon Pavilion." "But what about young Miss and—" "Relax. After yesterday's event, no one would dare touch them, if not for fear of offending Veiled Dragon Pavilion." Zhuo Yifan snickered. Captain Pang had to take a moment to recover and reacted by giving thumbs up as his eyes glittered with worship. He didn't get Zhuo Yifan plan, but he was clear Zhuo Yifan made others misunderstand Veiled Dragon Pavilion was backing Luo clan. "Steward Zhou, I am now thoroughly convinced. If the Luo clan doesn't have you as a steward, we would have been doomed. It was a waste of your talents to have left you sweeping the courtyard back in the day." Laughing, Zhuo Yifan patted Captain Pang's shoulder and shook his head. "That person wasn't." 15 minutes later found the two at the gates of Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Before the same two guards. But this time, they showed proper respect. "Please enter, dear guests." "What, you won't go and report first?" Zhuo Yifan mocked. After giving a silly laugh, a guard knew Zhuo Yifan was still bothered by what happened before and apologized. "It was us who were ignorant before and didn't recognize your greatness. You made a deal of 1,000,000 spirit stones. We do not have the right to block such an honorable guest." "Humph, snobs," Zhuo Yifan sneered, then took Captain Pang inside, leaving the guards still bent and flattering him. They were clearly miserable inside but still plastered a fake smile on their faces. The two ran into Long Kui. This time, she lacked the respect she showed before and snorted in anger as she walked away. How did we offended her?" Captain Pang was baffled. Zhuo Yifan smiled. "Young Miss Long Kui, is this how Veiled Dragon Pavilion treats its guests?" "Humph, how are you guests?" Raising an eyebrow, she glared at him. "You don't deserve to be guests when you used us." Rubbing his chin, Zhuo Yifan smiled and muttered, "Still just a girl, and so naive." Zhuo Yifan voice was faint but not enough to prevent the disdain in his voice from reaching Long Kui. She was treated as the jewel of the clan, and never received such contempt, especially from people around her age. "Zhuo Yifan, who are you calling naive?" "You, of course." Zhuo Yifan smiled. "Be it business or the politics between the 7 houses, everything must be taken into consideration when looking to make a profit. Yet you are prone to anger just from being used in someone else's plan. Just how did you survive this long? Compared to you, Long Jia is much more mature. He realized I used him and just walked away instead. The way I see it, admitting a loss is also a kind of power. At least the next time I plan on using him, it won't be as easy." This was the first time Long Kui heard such an argument and was stunned. She came from the clan's estate and was put in Long Ju's care. The elders in the estate spoke highly of her talent but not enough to entrust her with heavy responsibility. When she arrived here, Long Ju spoke the same. Her talent wasn't any less than Long Jia, but Long Ju didn't trust her in being responsible. She didn't understand, but now it seemed she was clear on something. Love, hate, closeness, and vengeance won't help you. Only benefits. Zhou Fan saw her bewildered eyes and chuckled. Let's set aside our personal grievances and talk about business. It is also where your talent lies. Long Kui thought for a bit and nodded. But just then a light cough came, along with an aged voice. Mr. Zhou Fan, let's talk. The three of them looked to see Long Zhu accompanied by Long Jia walking towards them. But Long Jia couldn't mask a glint of shock as he gazed upon Zhou Fan. Yesterday, he saw Zhou Fan's heart exploding. But now, he was walking like it never happened. His breath was even and spoke calmly. Did he recover in one night? How? Grandpa Zhu, won't you give this young one a chance? Not paying any heed to Long Jia's shock, Zhou Fan spoke, shaking his head. Long Zhu laughed. HHHA, just from talking with you, I ended up being used in the end. To think you still dare to come here. If I knew your true colors before, I would have taken you as a 1,000-year-old monster taking shelter in the Luo clan. Damn, I almost got found out. Zhou Fan forced a laugh as he dismissed him. You're too kind, Grandpa Zhu, how can I compare to you? Cut the crap. Long Zhu switched tones in an instant and said harshly. Why are you here? I am looking for a safe house for the Luo clan to live in. Does Grandpa Zhu know of a good place? Stroking his beard, Long Zhu replied. Why should I help you? Simple, Veiled Dragon Pavilion owes us. Also, Zhou Fan laughed eerily. It will help you watch over us more easily. Long Zhu's eyes squinted as his heart trembled in shock. This punk can see through anyone. Ever since killing Yu Quan yesterday, Veiled Dragon Pavilion has been on the defensive. With how tense our relation with Hell Valley is now, a battle might break out at any time. And Luo clan was a variable because of their connection with Veiled Dragon Pavilion. No one dared to mess with it, but it also allowed the Luo clan to do whatever it wanted. One wrong move and it could trigger a war between the houses. This was why Long Zhu placed surveillance over the Luo clan. Yet, Zhou Fan went and exposed it. This left Long Zhu feeling apprehensive. What is this punk scheming? He never imagined a veteran practitioner a century old would one day be toyed with by a punk. And he didn't understand the whole picture either, leaving him with an unpleasant feeling. Seeing the old man hesitating, Zhou Fan smiled. Guess I'll have to suffer a loss and give you something. Humph, what could you possibly know that the Veiled Dragon Pavilion doesn't? Long Kui stuck her chin with disdain. Zhou Fan smiled. I have heard of the Veiled Dragon Pavilion boundless strength. But the cat and mouse each have its own means. What I know doesn't mean you do as well. Long Kui grinned unconvinced. Long Jia also shook his head. But only Long Zhu fixed his single eye on Zhou Fan. Long Zhu wouldn't even care if it were anyone else. But it concerned Zhou Fan, who gave them too many shocks these past days. He began to add a certain importance to the youth before him. Let's hear it. Snickering, Zhou Fan said. Did you know Hell Valley's men are already here? What? Long Zhu shouted in shock. Since the founding of the empire, the 7 noble houses' domains had clear boundaries. Windgaze City was Veiled Dragon Pavilions and no other house was allowed to establish a branch here or it would be taken as provocation and war would break out. Of course, their disciples were the exception, as it could be seen from Veiled Dragon Pavilion ignoring Yu Quan's arrival. However, this didn't extend to elders or similar experts. They needed consent first. Zhou Fan knew of this rule from Luo Yunchang and was now probing. It went just as he thought. From their faces, they had no idea the bald old man was here. Impossible. We have scouts all over Windgaze City and no one can escape our notice. Long Jia shook his head with a grim look. Humph, don't listen to him. He just wants to scare us. Long Kui glared at Zhou Fan. Only Long Zhu spoke in a grave tone. What proof do you have? Zhou Fan smiled. None. So you're just running your mouth. Long Kui threw a despising glare his way. Zhou Fan laughed, but his appearance was that of a bald old man, with Kai Rong and clan head son calling him Elder Jian. Condor Jian Fan? Long Zhu's only eye squinted as his power exploded. It was so strong none of the others around him could breathe. Stepping back again and again. Only after a while did he calm down. Zhou Fan gasped as his heart shivered. Long Zhu's power contained naked killing intent that shocked even him. Grandpa Zhu, you've met that old man? Zhou Fan probed. Not only met him, that man ruined Uncle Zhu's godai. Long Jia explained. Zhou Fan was in joy. I was scared you had no grievances. Now that I know you're archenemies. It couldn't be better. Restrain your anger. Grandpa Zhu. Zhou Fan switched to a fake compassionate tone. Waving. Long Zhu's eye glinted with coldness. All right, since you spoke of his appearance. I'll believe you. You can take the courtyard 100 yards from here. Thank you, Grandpa Zhu. Zhou Fan clasped his hands and walked away with Captain Peng. But after a couple of steps, Long Zhu spoke coldly. Kid, where's that geezer? Stopping. Zhou Fan replied. Kai clan, but it's more likely he's in the Sun clan now. I see. Long Zhu nodded as the bones in his fists crackled. Once Zhou Fan was out of sight, he spoke. Ah Jia, report it to the clan so they can send some elders. I won't let Jian Fan leave this place alive. Also, stay for now in that courtyard and look after the Luo clan. I don't want them to do anything that might scare away Jian Fan. Uncle Zhu, he is a Hell Valley elder. If he dies here, it will trigger a war between our houses. Long Jia showed his worry. Humph, it is he who doesn't follow the rules and sneak my domain. If I let him live, I won't be able to live with the regret of him taking my eye. Seeing his advice falling on deaf ears, Long Jia sighed and left with Long Kui. Though they left, they could still hear Long Zhu's angry laughter. The next morning, Zhou Fan took the siblings and Captain Peng to their new home. This was where the Veiled Dragon Pavilion received their honored guests. It was far larger than the reception house where they were welcomed before. It was the best place in town. In a short while, Luo clan was the talk of the town, of how they were under Veiled Dragon Pavilion's close care. Everyone knew the Veiled Dragon Pavilion supported them, or they wouldn't have placed them in one of their courtyards, protected day in day out. Kai clan and Sun clan rejoiced they didn't accept Elder Jian's task. Just from today's circumstances, it was clear that any who dared to harm the Luo clan would face the wrath of Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Just like that, the moment the Luo clan stepped foot in their new home, it was publicly declared as the #1 clan in the Windgaze city. They were held above even the Kai clan and Sun clan. Despite being a small clan of 4, are we going to live here from now on? Being the first to enter, Luo Yunchang was shocked by the imposing atmosphere of the place, including the sheer number of guards around them, all qi condensation experts. Adding to them were 24 more golden armored guards staying vigilant. They were clearly bone-tempering experts. Such guards could only be seen in the 7 noble houses. Luo Yunhai and Captain Peng were struck dumb. The latter was even in awe by the number of experts, while the former inquisitive, old Peng. When the Luo clan recovers, what do you think of becoming the leader of such a team? Zhou Fan patted his shoulder. Captain Peng shyly shook his head. Any guard here is stronger than me. It is great if I can be as strong as them, but I don't dare lead them. Despite saying that, his eyes flashed with hope. Zhou Fan laughed. That day will come. But a sudden mocking laughter reached them. Mr. Zhou Fan, you not only lie to others but even lie to your own people. A steward like you is only good at conning. Many turned to see Long Jia and Long Kui walking over. Ever since she realized Zhou Fan made use of Veiled Dragon Pavilion, she lost all amiable pretense with Zhou Fan. With Captain Peng's talent, he'd reach the 6th layer qi condensation at best. Such a man is but a basic guard to us. Not a captain. I advise your little clan not to dream for something out of reach. Luo Yunchang and Captain Peng saddened while Zhou Fan steeled his face. Young Miss Long Kui, as the saying goes, don't mock a destitute youth. Your words are too harsh. Humph, what youth am I mocking? That's just an excuse to deceive dreamers. Every glorious clan built their way over thousands of years to reach the top. Don't think you can rely on your wit to stay under Veiled Dragon Pavilion's protection forever. In my eyes, Windgaze City is but a grain of sand. Even if you're a king or overlord here, you'd only be a frog in a well, oblivious to the vast world outside. Hearing her incessant babbling, Zhou Fan laughed. Oblivious to the vast world? A frog in a well? If anything worked as it should, the glorious demonic emperor wouldn't have fallen from sacred domain. In his eyes it was this Tianyu Empire who was the speck. To say nothing of the veiled dragon pavilion. Zhou Fan. Seeing him angry, Luo Yunchang pulled his hand with a frown. They shouldn't offend their protector. Long Jia also felt Long Kui crossed the line and shook his head after drawing her attention. But the lady only snorted. "Young miss, lend me some spirit stones," Zhou Fan said coldly. Luo Yunchang was startled. She didn't know what he wanted to do, but she gave him a ring containing what he requested. Zhou Fan jumped on the highest point on the roof and overlooked the area. "Hey, this isn't your home. Get down from there," Long Kui barked. Ignoring her, Zhou Fan spoke. "Third grade, coiling dragon array." Long Kui and Long Jia were shocked. Zhou Fan's words spoke of the array Long Ju set up in this place, yet this kid saw through it with one look. Yet before the shock lessened, Zhou Fan jumped and spread spirit stones around him from the ring. In 15 minutes, close to 10,000 spirit stones were buried in the courtyard. When Zhou Fan landed, Long Kui asked, "What are you trying to do?" Zhou Fan began making hand signs. In an instant, the ground trembled and dragon roars resounded, followed by 9 golden dragons bursting out of the ground. The dragons spread across the sky above Windgaze City for all to see. Elder Jian, who was in a hidden room in the Sun Clan. He opened his eyes and stared in shock. "Who's setting up the array? Is it that geezer?" "No, he doesn't have the skill to set up one such as this." In Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Long Ju shot to his feet as he watched in astonishment. "Is that my coiling dragon array?" "No, my array isn't as strong." On Blackwind Mountain, a sinister youth turned to Windgaze City's direction with a frown. "What's going on in the city? Was the plan pushed forward?" But he soon shook his head. "No, Elder Jian isn't impulsive. What could have happened?" Everyone's eyes turned to this strange light. After 15 minutes, Zhou Fan's hand signs changed and the 9 golden dragons returned to the earth of the courtyard. It was soon followed by a golden glow that spread all over it. What did you do?" Long Kui stammered. Zhou Fan ignored her again and showed deep respect as he presented the ring to Luo Yunchang. "Young miss, I noticed the 3rd grade coiling dragon array lacked in strength to safeguard young miss' safety. As such, I took it upon myself to upgrade it to the 5th grade 9 heavens coiling dragon array. I have wasted spirit stones. Please punish me." "Young miss, what?" Long Jia and Long Kui were gobsmacked. There were but a handful of people who could set a 5th grade array in the Tianyu Empire. Not even the 7 houses had such a talent. But this kid had just simply deployed one. Was he a 5th grade array master? Luo Yunchang knew Zhou did it on purpose to humiliate them, then deferred to her. This was also the first time she saw him so subdued. It was the perfect moment to install her rightful status as a young miss onto him. Luo Yunchang smiled inside, yet her face was stone cold. "Steward Zhou, I should punish you for taking so many spirit stones without consent. But I won't blame you as you did it for our sake. Let's go." "What? Punishment?" Not even the 7 noble houses would dare rebuke such a lofty existence. Long Kui looked as if she had a fly stuck in her throat. Soon, Zhou Fan accompanied Luo Yunhai as they swaggered inside, to the endless shock of the others and the snickering of Captain Peng and Luo Yunhai. Only Long Jia and Long Kui stood there with their hearts in chaos. They never thought it possible for a scheming second-layer Qi condensation Zhou Fan to also be a 5th grade array master. How could an unknown clan have such a talent? Whoosh! With a sudden boom, a figure appeared before the two. It was Long Ju. His eyes were filled with excitement. "Who set up the array just now?" It's..." The two looked long at each other before Long Jia replied. "Luo clan's steward, Zhou Fan." "What? Him?" Long Ju turned to the array, and the more he examined it, the more shocked he got. An array master needs to know each array as the back of his hand and pours years and years into understanding heaven and earth. At my age, I can only set up 3rd grade arrays. So how can a pup set up a 5th grade array so quickly? Long Ju seemed to be asking Long Kui and Long Jia, but it also seemed to be asking himself. The two only shook their heads. It was unknown what kind of man Zhou Fan was, as he kept doing extraordinary and shocking things again and again. Even the two of them, born in a powerful clan, no longer dared to underestimate Zhuo Fan. They even felt inferior. Go and call the kid over. No. Invite him. I want to speak to him. Taking a look around, Long Zhu grinned. The two cupped their hands and followed his order. Soon, in a pavilion in the garden behind the courtyard, Long Zhu served tea at a stone table. It didn't take long before Zhuo Fan came in, followed by Long Jia and Long Kui. HHHA, brother Zhuo Fan, sit. Long Zhu laughed as he invited him. Long Jia and Long Kui were shocked. Brother Zhuo Fan? Long Zhu had a high position in the clan. As such, the two of them called him uncle. Yet a proud man like Long Zhu only respected a handful of people in the Tianyu Empire. But to call this kid brother left the two stumped. Zhuo Fan took it in strike, however, sitting without hesitation. In his eyes, this was a world where the strong were respected. With enough strength, even this old man's grandpa would call him brother. Why has Bro Zhu called for me? Zhuo Fan wasn't a stickler for rules and poured himself some tea. He didn't seem to know the meaning of shame as he called Long Zhu bro without so much as a blush. Long Kui couldn't even react. Long Jia rolled his eyes, cursing him for being shameless and taking advantage of circumstances. But Long Zhu was overjoyed. Their relationship was now tighter, and that was a good thing for him. Brother Zhuo Fan, since you called me Bro Zhu, I won't mince words. I'll be honest with you. Brother, for a 5th grade array master to stay in a fallen clan like the Luo clan is a sin. It's best if you join the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. We will even treat you as a venerable. Even the clan head will have to show you respect. Long Kui and Long Jia never imagined Long Zhu wanted to invite Zhuo Fan as Veiled Dragon Pavilion's venerable. That was the highest status in the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, even higher than an elder. How could a kid, still wet behind his ears, receive such honor? Then again, Zhuo Fan was a 5th grade array master only in the qi condensation stage. Any of the 7 houses would invite such a person to be a venerable. Asking him to join the Veiled Dragon Pavilion was for the clan's future. Zhuo Fan sipped tea with a smile. He knew of Long Zhu's intention even before he came. Who wouldn't fight and seize a 5th grade array master? In such an empire, even the emperor would have to show him courtesy. He foresaw this even as he set up the array. Brother Zhuo Fan, what do you say? Long Zhu asked again. Zhuo Fan grinned. I have one condition. If it's in Veiled Dragon Pavilion's power, you can ask for anything. Long Zhu expressed his consent. Even making her serve me tea, rub my feet, and warm my bed? Zhuo Fan pointed at Long Kui. Long Kui's cheeks flared red with anger. Keep dreaming. Long Zhu had to shake his head in embarrassment. It's impossible with little Kui. HHHA. It's just a joke. I already have a young miss, so why would I look for another? Zhuo Fan's eyes were radiant as he turned serious. I want the Luo siblings, forever safe. Zhuo Fan paused after each word. Long Zhu showed his admiration. He never expected for Zhuo Fan's condition to be just this. Such devotion inspired respect from the 3 around him. Even the always angry Long Kui looked at him longer. I agree, as long as the Veiled Dragon Pavilion exists. The Luo clan, not only this generation but its descendants, will also live in peace. Smiling, Zhuo Fan sipped his tea again. Then from now on, you are Veiled Dragon Pavilion's venerable. I will report it to the clan, and 3 days later, I will ask Jia to escort you to the clan estate. Wait, Zhuo Fan raised his hand. I didn't agree. What? But just now. Long Zhu stood in panic, then glared at Zhuo Fan. Brother Zhuo, were you messing around? Zhuo Fan turned serious. If it were 15 minutes ago, I would have agreed without hesitation. But now, what about now? Long Zhu's beard trembled, shaking his head. Zhuo Fan let out a mysterious smile as his voice turned cold. Young Miss Long Kui, do you remember what you said? Zhuo Fan extended his fist. Within 10 years, I will make the Luo clan stand above the 7 houses. He downed the tea in one gulp and smacked the cup on the table as he left. Long Kui had a strange feeling watching his back. It was impossible for a small clan to rise above the 7 noble houses in 10 years. Even if he was a 5th grade array master, The 7 noble houses' reserves weren't something he alone could overcome. But Zhou Fan's confidence left her without retort. Little Kui, what did you say? Long Zhu turned to the two. From Zhou Fan's expression, he knew Zhou Fan was not lying. So, something must have happened earlier. Long Kui only stared at Zhou Fan's back as Long Jia spoke after hesitating. Long Zhu shook his head after hearing the story. I've said already not to insult people and cut at their shortcomings. You've insulted the Luo clan and they are sure to not take it lying down. But, what he said can't be achieved. Long Jia muttered. Long Zhu stroked his beard. Luo clan has a 5th-grade array master. Even if it won't rise above the 7 houses, it will still be well known in the land. It's best to get closer to it. We were so close to having him as venerable. Long Zhu sighed as he fixed his eye on Long Kui. Regarding Zhou Fan, he went to Luo Yunchang, his mind going a mile a minute. He could have completely put his heart demon to rest but chose not to because of Long Kui's words. Pipe dream? If we can't even dream, our only choice is to leave it up to fate. Demonic cultivators walked in defiance of heaven, fighting for their own fates. Zhou Fan thus hated when someone told him that any goals he had was a pipe dream. That he should feel grateful for his fate. He had to prove to everyone that even a fallen clan could reach the top one day. He no longer helped the Luo clan just for the sake of his heart demon, but also for his path as a demonic cultivator. Nothing in this world is impossible. If heaven stands in my way, I will kill it. My fate is my own and not heaven's. The day shall come when he would rebuild this ruined clan to the best the world had ever seen. As long as demonic Emperor Zhuo Yifan was here, nothing was impossible. Bam! Zhou Fan slammed the door open full of anger. Luo Yunhai, Luo Yunchang, and Captain Pang were startled. Luo Yunchang hesitated before building up the courage to speak to him. Zhou Fan, what did Grandfather Zhu want? He invited me to join Veiled Dragon Pavilion. The three's faces saddened. Despite being downhearted inside, Luo Yunchang strained a smile. Congratulations. Veiled Dragon Pavilion will offer you a far more glorious future than Luo clan. She had a guess Zhou Fan's talent as a 5th-grade array master would attract the 7 houses' invitation. The Luo clan would find it impossible to hold on to such a man. Zhou Fan snorted. What are you sad about? I declined. What? Shock was seen but happiness was the most obvious emotion. Why? Just because. I'll be in my room. Zhou Fan left without answering. But just before he was gone, he said coldly, Young miss, don't interfere in any future matters of the Luo clan, be it big or small. Luo Yunchang nodded absent-minded. Wasn't it like this so far? Why did he bring this up? Zhou Fan then seemed to talk to her but also to himself. From now on, I am Luo clan's steward. In 10 years, I will raise the Luo clan above the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. His figure left with the last word, leaving the three in shock. For the next 10 odd days, there was not a shadow of Zhou Fan gracing the small courtyard in the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Not only Long Kui, not even Luo clan's members saw him. After his bold words that day, Zhou Fan worked harder on cultivation. Locked up in his room, he only let Blood Infant roam free at night to gather Yuan Qi. His target, the Kai clan. As such, clan head Kai was dejected all this time. His guards shrank in numbers with each passing day, without so much as a trace left behind. This left him wondering if the Luo clan he offended asked Veiled Dragon Pavilion to deal with his clan. In his opinion, only the 7 noble houses had such dreadful power to reap his guards without notice. As such, Kai Rong's heart grew heavier, to the point his son balled up under his blanket, shivering at night, afraid he would be next. To the living, it wasn't death that was scary, but the wait before. Father and son felt the crawling of time in the agony of fear. He also thought of seeking Hell Valley's help, but ever since it got his family martial art, it cut off all ties. This only went to further prolong Kai Rong's agony as he shouted out his frustration one day in his room. No demonic cultivator was trustworthy, but he was in too deep to turn back now. Zhou Fan took them all in stride with a sneer. As for the Sun clan, he let the Blood Infant pay them a few visits too. However, Elder Jian was there, so There were many close calls to getting caught. And as of late, many great powers have been present there. So Zhuo Yifan avoided entering. He only left Blood Infant to monitor at the gates. On this day, as per usual, the Blood Infant ate a dozen Kai clan guards, then staked Kai clan's gates for a bit before returning to the little courtyard. Pleased, just as he was about to enter his home, a trace of energy caught his eye. Zhuo Yifan frowned in his room as the Blood Infant hid its energy. Soon, in a corner across from the little courtyard, a shadow was reflected in his eyes. That person was watching his home. Humph, no one dares to step inside Veiled Dragon Pavilion's territory, yet this one does? He must be from Blackwind Mountain. Zhuo Yifan grinned. He recalled Elder Jian telling it wasn't the Kai clan nor the Sun clan who'd come after the Luo clan, but a third party unrelated to them. Blackwind Mountain. If the Luo clan fell, Hell Valley was spared of all liability. But how were a bunch of bandits going to enter the little courtyard? You think this is the Cloud Manor? Raising an eyebrow, Zhuo Yifan guided the Blood Infant after the person in black. Because Blood Infant's hidden energy, it wasn't found out. After taking stock of the surrounding, the bandit left, followed by a red trace. An hour later, the person jumped through a window of a tavern and the Blood Infant floated to peer inside. Zhuo Yifan saw 7 strong men and a 17-year-old girl to the side. They were all waiting for the person in black to speak. Young miss, how's the situation? Before the person in black spoke, the girl poured tea and spoke with concern. Zhuo Yifan was taken aback. A woman? He never expected the leader of the Blackwind Mountain bandits to be a woman. Were they looking down on the fact that the Luo clan had only 4 members? Zhuo Yifan shook his head. He saw the person in black remove her veil to reveal a pair of bright eyes. Black hair flowing down to her waist, with fair and unblemished skin worthy of the title beauty. Even the men couldn't help but swallow dryly and stare. But the woman's glare made them lower their heads. Xiao Kui, get me a pen and paper. Being shouted to, the girl rushed to obey. The beauty drew in detail for 15 minutes. The contents shocked Zhuo Yifan. That was Veiled Dragon Pavilion's little courtyard in minute detail. He had to admit, making such a map after one night of staking earned a thumbs up from him. She wasn't the leader for nothing. Look closely. Here, and here are guards. The 4 corners here have bone tempering experts. Young miss, this is Veiled Dragon Pavilion. How do we proceed? By the look of things, we'll be dead before we even make it through the door. One man wiped his sweat from fear. The woman dismissed him. Relax. Senior brother got in contact with Hell Valley's men and said they will distract the guards. We just need to capture Luo Yunchang and kill the rest. What? She isn't a man, so why capture young Miss 4? Zhuo Yifan was baffled, but not worried. Even without the guards, he still had the 9 heavens coiling dragon array. They were ants throwing their lives away. But what caught his attention was that Blackwind Mountain and Hell Valley were connected. They were being exploited just like the Kai clan, but on a much deeper level. Young miss, there's something you might not like to hear, but it concerns our lives. Say it. Waving her hand, the girl spoke calmly. The man hesitated before firming his resolve. Young miss, the young lord and Hell Valley are connected and will listen to him. Even if Hell Valley's men help us, the Veiled Dragon Pavilion is still one of the 7 noble houses. Offending them will leave us with no place to hide. Will the Hell Valley shelter us then? If they abandon us instead, death will be our only outcome. Humph, that's like saying you're scared of dying. Don't you think you're letting down Mountain Lord with your words? For helping Camp Lord recover. For his revenge, the least we can do is stake our lives. Her words brought shame on their faces. She glared at them and shouted. Withdraw. Follow the predetermined plan without fail. Yes. They cupped their hands and shouted with respect. When they left, they were resolute with staring death in the face. Not bad. Zhuo Yifan raised an eyebrow as he left the room. Now it was his turn. When all the people left, the girl clapped her hands in glee. Young miss is amazing, like a true mountain lord. Shaking her head, the woman sighed. If Godfather was back to health, he'd do it far better. No one on Blackwind Mountain would have doubted him, nor question his orders. Maybe, but they still believe in young miss. The woman shook her head. Xiao Kui, Don't comfort me. I only hope to cure my adoptive father once we get the returning dragon palm. Young Miss will succeed in her filial duty. The girl giggled. However, it was now that a faint sigh reached them. Girl, filial and success are different things. Moreover, who told you the returning dragon palm can heal wounds? Who's there? The woman and the girl turned to find Zhuo Yifan sitting on the window frame with a smile. No need to panic. I have no ill intent. I just came to chat and clear some things up. Zhuo Yifan made a friendly gesture. Who exactly are you? The woman drew Xiao Kui 2 steps behind her. She didn't realize Zhuo Yifan was spying on them. If he wanted her life, she'd be dead by now. Oh, I haven't introduced myself. Zhuo Yifan bowed. I am Luo clan's steward. Zhuo Yifan. What? The Luo clan? The woman's eyes squinted and gnashed her teeth. Then die. She stabbed with 2 fingers. Piercing lightning danced between her fingers as if it wanted to shatter the skies. Zhuo Yifan was a bit startled. 9th layer of qi condensation. Spirit rank martial art? He'd never expected for the last to be so strong and even wield a spirit rank martial art to boot. Her power was close to a bone-tempering cultivator. Unfortunately, she met Zhuo Yifan. He mocked all those below bone-tempering. Because he had the blood infant. With a hand sign, a red light flashed from his body into the woman. Her body froze, yet the lighting still buzzed between her fingers. She was afraid. What did you do to me? Grinning, Zhuo Yifan shook his head. Nothing. I am only controlling your body. And then grabbed her 2 fingers. Cancel. In an instant, the piercing lightning died out. Blood infant was born of blood and controlled blood. This, in turn, led to the control of the whole body. Only strong cultivation and yuan qi could repel such restrictions. But this was because the blood infant was still weak. If it was in the saint stage, even an emperor would find it hard to deal with. Come with me. Zhuo Yifan hugged her waist. She could do nothing but let the strange man embrace her as they went. Young Miss, Xiao Kui shouted. Zhuo Yifan turned and thought of something. Oh, forgot about you. His hand grabbed her shoulder and the lass blanked out. Xiao Kui was just a servant that had yet to enter qi condensation. Thus, as the first rays of dawn graced the earth, Zhuo Yifan walked to his home embracing 1 girl and 1 woman. Whoosh! As dawn approached, Zhuo Yifan carried a pretty girl in each hand to his courtyard. The guards were taken aback seeing this steward locked up for 10 odd days. Only to follow up with a knowing smile. One even teased, Steward Zhou, last night must have been exhausting for you. Long Kui happened to pass by and saw him with 2 beauties. She frowned and rolled her eyes as she walked away with large steps. She ignored him while her mouth kept criticizing. Men are all the same. Zhuo Yifan didn't care that they misunderstood and threw the 2 in his room. He closed the door and sat on a chair. Ow! Xiao Kui recovered from hitting the ground and rubbed her eyes. Where is this? But shouted when her eyes landed on the other woman. Young Miss, are you all right? The woman laid motionless on the floor, presenting her delectable assets to Zhuo Yifan to see. Smiling, Zhuo Yifan moved his finger and she regained her freedom. The woman rose in a flash and reached for her ankle. Her hand now had a dagger that rushed at Zhou's neck. Yet, only a groan came as the dagger stopped an inch from his throat as she froze in place. Zhuo Yifan admired her with a sneer. Nice skills, but that won't work on me. I only invited you over to clarify some things. If you are honest, I will let you go. Also, it's best if you don't bare your fangs at me again. Zhuo Yifan took the dagger from her hand, then spared a second glance to her shapely body. Oh, we'd have to make sure you have nothing else hiding on you. Zhuo Yifan adopted the frisking posture. The woman turned beet red. You dare? His hand stopped as Zhuo Yifan looked into her eyes. Whether I dare or not depends on you. Then his tone turned grave. Who are you? What are you doing in Wingaze City? The woman ignored him. Whoosh! Zhuo Yifan ripped a part of her clothing wrapped around her waist and threw it to the ground. Ah! With a shriek the woman's anger exploded. Her eyes seemed to spew fire, yet Zhuo Yifan couldn't care less. Xiao Kui rushed over and smacked Zhuo Yifan with her tender fists. Bastard! How dare you do that to young Miss? Zhuo Yifan other hand moved with ease and some of Xiao Kui's clothing fell on the floor. She was stunned for a second before shooting back and holding her clothes tighter with tears swelling in her eyes. Zhuo Yifan was nonplussed, asking in the same calm voice, "Who are you? What are you doing in Wingaze City?" Gnashing her teeth, the woman bit her lips in answer. Her clothing was torn to shreds before as Zhuo Yifan repeated with coldness, "Who are you? What are you doing in Wingaze City?" Zhuo Yifan's cruelty was akin to a heartless machine that brought fear to the woman's heart. She finally relaxed her clenched jaw. "I am Blackwind Mountain Lord's goddaughter, Lei Yuting. I have come to Wingaze City to end the Luo clan." "Why?" Zhuo Yifan's face was unfeeling as if it had nothing to do with him. This only worked to stoke Lei Yuting's fear. This man didn't look human in her eyes. "Hell Valley will distract the guards while we sneak in." Zhuo Yifan nodded satisfied. He knew this beforehand and asked this to shred her heart's defenses. The next question was something he wanted to know the most. "What's your connection with Hell Valley? What do they get by helping you?" Lei Yuting was at a loss too. "I don't know." Zhuo Yifan kept his eyes on her. And when he found her answer truthful, "How are you in contact with Hell Valley? Who mediates?" Lei Yuting's eyes shook but her lips pursed. Zhuo Yifan had a guess but he wanted to hear it from her. So he ripped Lei Yuting's shirt. Her body was exposed to Zhuo Yifan's eyes in an instant, leaving only a red lace cloth to protect her final vestige of modesty. Lei Yuting's tears dropped without a sound. Zhuo Yifan's hand closed in on the red cloth as his voice dropped even lower. "This is your last chance to maintain your honor. If you don't answer, there are more than a dozen craving men outside beside me." "Bastard," Lei Yuting hissed. "I'll count to 3. 1, 2. The higher he got the closer his hand was to the red cloth. Lei Yuting's bit her lips, close to drawing blood while crying. Yet no word came out. "You're quite brave." Zhuo Yifan nodded and was about to pull when Xiao Kui shouted in panic. "Don't, I beg you, don't bully young miss. It's senior brother Yang who's in contact with Hell Valley." "Who is he?" Zhuo Yifan's curled up an evil smile. Lei Yuting wanted to shout for Xiao Kui to stop, but Zhuo Yifan's robbed her voice. Xiao Kui saw young miss suffering and spoke truthfully. "He is Mountain Lord's disciple, Yang Ming." The Mountain Lord formed a marriage contract between senior brother Yang and young miss. But one day, Luo's clan head, Luo Zhenan, caught him off guard and wounded him heavily. He lays paralyzed, unable to even speak. "So you thought of catching the Luo clan off guard?" Zhuo Yifan grinned. "Killers must pay and revenge must be dealt. Right? And then?" Xiao Kui hesitated but then she saw Zhuo Yifan's hand drawing near Lei Yuting's chest. "We were at a loss in the face of Luo clan's tight guard. But then senior brother made a pact with steward's son. He worked with us from the inside and defeated the Luo clan. Then Luo clan's young miss ran away and we lost track of her. It was also then when senior brother Yang found out you were all here and asked Hell Valley's help." "Good." Zhuo Yifan's hand remained still. "How did you know Mountain Lord was sneak attacked by Luo Zhenan?" "Did you see it?" "Senior brother Yang did." "Did your senior brother Yang also tell you returning dragon palm can heal him?" Zhuo Yifan raised an eyebrow as he asked Xiao Kui, who nodded. She was amazed he got it right. With a clear picture, Zhuo Yifan withdrew his hand from Lei Yuting's chest. However, a light voice came from outside. "Zhuo Yifan, are you there?" Luo Yunchang went inside with Luo Yunhai and Captain Peng. The image rooted them in place. An extra 2 beauties with messed up clothing were inside. With Zhuo Yifan's nefarious hand in front of one's chest, Luo Yunhai was slack-jawed. Yet his eyes roamed like lightning, covering her brother's eyes. Luo Yunchang shouted at Captain Peng, "Get young master out." Captain Peng nodded as he carried Luo Yunhai outside, but not before he threw Zhuo Yifan a vulgar smile any man would understand. "Steward Zhou," Luo Yunchang raged. "This is Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Why are you making trouble?" Shrugging, Zhuo Yifan said, "Everything I do is for Luo clan's sake." "For Luo clan?" Luo Yunchang laughed from anger. "You bring 2 flossies to mess around with and you say it's for Luo clan? Didn't you say you were getting stronger? Didn't you say you'll raise the Luo clan above the 7 houses in 10 years? Is this how you do it?" Zhuo Yifan was stunned. Luo Yunchang carried herself with dignity and virtue at all times. Even when angry. Why did she snap today so bad that she lost all composure? Shaking his head, Zhou Fan said, if you knew who they were, you wouldn't be saying that. Luo Yunchang was skeptical. They are from Blackwind Mountain and I was interrogating them. Zhou Fan sneered at the two girls with messed up clothing. This method is the most effective against women, even in the case of bandits. What? They're from Blackwind Mountain? Luo Yunchang's eyes went bloodshot as she used her yuan qi to punch Lei Yuting. Give me back my father. Zhou Fan caught her soft hand. Calm down. I believe Blackwind Mountain and the Luo clan's grievances are connected. The 7 noble houses were probably behind it all. What? Not only Luo Yunchang, even Lei Yuting and Xiao Kui were stunned. Both the Luo clan and Blackwind Mountain were mere ants to the 7 noble houses. Why go to such lengths to hide their intention when they could deal with them with a snap of their fingers? Zhou Fan didn't figure it out yet, but he still let go of Lei Yuting. Young Miss Lei, I have a presumptuous favor to ask of you. Zhou Fan bowed. I want you to take me to Blackwind Mountain. I want to get to the bottom of this. Humph. There's no way you can enter Blackwind Mountain. Lei Yuting snorted. Zhou Fan smiled at Luo Yunchang. Young miss, please take out the returning dragon palm. Why? Luo Yunchang took it out anyway. If others asked for it, she wouldn't have been so quick to respond. But since Zhou Fan was a 5th grade array master, he wouldn't covet a mere spirit rank martial art. Zhou Fan smiled. Young Miss Lei, this is the returning dragon palm you wanted. But this is a martial art. It is unable to heal Mountain Lord's wound. I can only ask for you to take me to Blackwind Mountain to investigate. The chances Yang Ming had always lied to you. We need to make matters clear. Otherwise, Luo clan and Blackwind Mountain will be crushed by the 7 houses. Senior brother Yang is a good man. Not a liar, Xiao Kui said. Zhou Fan only looked at Lei Yuting. How could Yang Ming make Luo clan's steward defect after decades under Luo clan and also be in constant contact with Hell Valley? Lei Yuting, do you even know your fiancé? Zhou Fan's words struck a chord inside Lei Yuting and doubt sprouted. Tracing returning dragon palm's jade slip with her hand, she nodded. Since they gave her the martial art, one passed down through generations, even she found something amiss and agreed. Moreover, Blackwind Mountain was her home and Zhou Fan was but one man. No trick of his would work there. Zhou Fan was pleased, but he cleared his voice in embarrassment the next second. Miss Lei, be careful not to catch a cold. Ah, only now did she react to the vile steward ripping her clothes and could only use her hands for cover. Luo Yunchang and Xiao Kui shoved Zhou Fan out the door. Scram! The door slammed behind him as the 3 girls exchanged a smile. But then it dawned on them how complicated the matter got. They were still enemies and lost their smiles. Then came Zhou Fan from outside. Miss Lei, next time don't forget to wear more. Lei Yuting was so embarrassed her eyes burned with rage. While her face grew hotter, woman and an old man walked down a forest road. She was tall, mesmerizing and emanating a perfume that drew in butterflies. The wizened old man had a white goatee, yet his eyes flashed with vigilance now and then. The two arrived at the foot of a mountain and looked to the summit. The beauty eyed the elder, but her tone was laced with anger. Zhou Fan, you better behave. If I find you have any evil intentions towards Blackwind Mountain, I won't let you off. HHHA. Relax, miss. This old man only came to investigate. Moreover, what could a lone man possibly do? The old man's laughter reached the heavens above. Snorting, Lei Yuting ignored him. Furthermore, if you harm even a hair of Xiao Kui, I will end you. Relax. I took her hostage because we don't trust each other. On one hand, I needed some insurance. On the other, Zhou Fan spoke in a mysterious voice. It is for your own good. For my own good? Lei Yuting didn't understand, but the only response she got was Zhou Fan shaking his head. The two climbed in silence. Halfway up, they got to the first checkpoint. Who's there? A strong man jumped out in their path. But when he saw Lei Yuting, he bowed. Ah, so it's young miss. Weren't you in Windgaze City? Why, I had to return. Lei Yuting jutted out her chin, walking without sparing the man a glance. He is on Yang Ming's side. Zhou Fan whispered. Tell me, If your task in Windgaze City was so secret, why is it that a common bandit knows of it? Lei Yuting frowned. Her previous unshakable trust in Yang Ming was gnawed by Zhuo Fan these past few days. She, herself, started to notice many more inconsistencies in Yang Ming's behavior. The same could be said about the man they just met. He was watching her every movement. But what she used to take it as normal before, now it felt like a warning. You'll see, once we arrive, Yang Ming will welcome you. Zhuo Fan smiled as he sped up. Lei Yuting watched his figure with a heart filled with doubts. They passed several more checkpoints before reaching the summit. They now stood in front of the Blackwind Mountain Camp's gate. Since Zhuo Fan was impersonating an old man and was led by Lei Yuting, no one questioned him, but just as they stepped foot across the gate, a man appeared. He was tall and majestic. Just that a wicked smile smeared his handsome face. Zhuo Fan knew in a flash he was Yang Ming. See, all your actions were reported back. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow at Lei Yuting, like a child who won the bet. But Lei Yuting didn't humor him by playing his game, and instead had a solemn face. Zhuo Fan had been feeding her doubts every step of the way, particularly regarding Yang Ming, who might have been a spy from the Hell Valley. She didn't want to believe it since he was the fiancé her godfather arranged for her. It was hard for her to change her perception of a man who had the trust of everyone, her godfather included, but these doubts were the fruit of Zhuo Fan's careful wording along the way. Biting her lip, Lei Yuting saw Yang Ming with a complicated gaze and braced herself for what was to come. Sister Yuting, shouldn't you be in Windgaze City? Why the sudden return? Yang Ming approached her with a smile and turned to Zhuo Fan. And this is? Lei Yuting hesitated a moment. Senior brother, Veiled Dragon Pavilion isn't someone we can provoke. While Hell Valley's men aren't worthy of trust, this operation has too many dangers, so I've put the men on standby to observe for now. Yang Ming's face changed, not much but enough for Zhuo Fan to notice the killing intent in his eyes. Sister Yuting, Master's kindness is as heavy as a mountain. How can we not give our lives for such a man? How can we be so selfish? Furthermore, aren't we supposed to avenge Master? I am aware, however. Lei Yuting frowned. We cannot disregard the lives of our brothers. This is a second-ranked alchemist I have found to save Godfather. We will settle this vengeance once he recovers. Sensing his cue, Zhuo Fan cupped his hands. HHHA. This old man has wandered the pugilistic world and cured countless illnesses. No injury or disease can escape my trained eye. Humph. If you were so great, we'd have known about you. Who are you trying to deceive? Yang Ming interrupted Zhuo Fan, bragging. Junior sister, only returning dragon palm can heal wounds this martial art caused. Don't you trust me? Lei Yuting recalled the times she spent with Yang Ming and her heart was in chaos. Zhuo Fan stood between the two and asked Yang Ming. Little brother, give me a chance. I'm an expert healer. Get lost. Yang Ming was furious and sent a palm attack. Zhuo Fan felt the power behind it but didn't dodge, opting to take the strike with clenched teeth. Bam! Despite not using a martial art, the palm backed up by the power of an early bone-tempering cultivator struck Zhuo Fan's chest and sent him sprawling while coughing blood. Why did you attack if you refused him entry? Lei Yuting yelled. Zhuo Fan staggered to his feet after puking another mouthful of blood. This old man can't take too many hits. Miss, I'm sorry but I will have to refuse this deal. I should have known no good comes from dealing with bandits. What did you say? Yang Ming was enraged and slapped again. But Lei Yuting stopped him. I invited him. If you want to hit him, you'll have to go through me. Humph, let him try for all I care. But if this healer makes the master worse, he won't leave this place alive. Yang Ming flung his sleeve and walked out in anger. Lei Yuting felt wronged and glared at Zhuo Fan. It's all your fault senior brother ignores me. I was a fool for believing you. There's no way my caring senior brother could harm Godfather. Miss, didn't your Godfather teach you how to judge people? Zhuo Fan wiped the blood from his mouth with a smile. But this is perfect since he bought it. Lei Yuting was shocked, then doubtful. When you talk to someone, you don't pay attention to what they speak but how they act. Zhuo Fan's grinned evilly. The reason he stopped me before was because he didn't know of my level. Thanks to his palm strike, He gauged my strength was negligible and let me pass. You tell me if he's caring or not. Lei Yuting replayed the early scene while leaving out Yang Ming's words. All of his actions went according to Zhou Fan's conjecture. To the point that when he left, Yang Ming showed a faint smile to her. Can it be? Lei Yuting didn't dare finish. If she did, her heart would be in too much pain and wouldn't be able to stop herself from confronting Yang Ming. At that time, the two would break all relations. Zhou Fan patted her shoulder. Come, take me to your godfather. Damn swindler. It's fine if you want to act, but there's no point in seeing him. Lei Yuting could hardly rein her emotions. Zhou Fan smiled while shrugging nonplussed. When you act, you need to be thorough. Moreover, the act hasn't reached its climax. With the final word, Zhou Fan walked forward and Lei Yuting followed. As they passed, hundreds of eyes focused on them. Lei Yuting felt uneasy from so many stares. What used to be eyes filled with respect now held only wariness. The two entered the Mountain Lord's room and saw Yang Ming inside. He held a bowl of gruel, feeding the old man on the bed. Hack, I will hold you responsible for anything that happens to master. Yang Ming smacked the bowl on the table and glared, then took a seat to the side to observe. Zhou Fan laughed inside as he inspected the patient. When his fingers touched the old man's wrist, he injected his yuan qi and what he saw stunned him. It was all clear to him now. He has no external wounds. Zhou Fan shook his head. Yang Ming rolled his eyes and snorted. Is there a need to even say it? But neither, internal ones. Yang Ming's eyes squinted and his hands tightened. He judged the fourth layer qi condensation Zhou Fan as having no skill to speak of. But reality proved him wrong. Yang Ming's killing intent spiked. If Godfather isn't injured, why can't he move or speak? Lei Yuting doubted Zhou Fan's diagnosis, thinking he was just putting on a show. When you put up an act, try to make it believable. How are you going to explain an immobilized bone tempering expert having no injuries? Zhou Fan scratched his nose as he smiled. This old man has concluded he has something foreign inside. Bam! Yang Ming snapped the corner of the table while the old man on the bed glared at Zhou Fan. He wanted to speak with such ardor, but he was powerless to do so. Yet his emotional gaze said it all. Nonsense! Yang Ming stormed before Zhou Fan and pulled him back. Lei Yuting was stunned. Senior brother, what's wrong? Squinting his eyes, Yang Ming turned to Lei Yuting. Junior sister, are you hiding something from me? Lei Yuting froze but shook her head after hesitating. How can I? Yang Ming snickered. Junior sister, after being in contact for so long, you're unable to lie to me. Of course. Lei Yuting felt danger behind Yang Ming's smile, as if a viper had its eyes on her, forcing her to stagger back. Yang Ming flashed with determination. Junior sister, where is Xiao Kui? I had her do some things. Lei Yuting stammered. Yang Ming nodded, pleased, but the next second, his eyes flashed evilly as he sent a palm strike. The powerful strike to her chest sent Lei Yuting flying. A trail of blood hung in the air. Yang Ming then pressed a spot on the bed and a trapdoor opened beneath Lei Yuting. Zhou Fan faked shock and fled, but Yang Ming's quick hand clutched his neck, throwing him inside the hole and then closed the trapdoor. The old man trembled from fury seeing the two falling in Yang Ming's trap. Bam! Lei Yuting's body ached as she landed in the black cave. But then, with a loud bang, something crashed onto her with such force that she spat blood. Didn't think this kid would have a trapdoor. Zhou Fan reached for the ground and felt something soft in his palm. Why is the ground so soft? Ah, bastard, get off me. A shriek pierced his ears and Zhou Fan realized he was on top of Lei Yuting with his two hands conveniently placed on her chest. He rushed away and said embarrassed. Sorry, it was a total accident. Lei Yuting, with a beet-red face, didn't argue. She stood up and raved. Yang Ming, so you're the one behind it all. HHHA. Yang Ming's egotistical laughter came from above. Junior sister, I knew your return was suspicious. And you even brought a second-grade alchemist. You started to doubt me. Why are you doing this? Godfather always treated you well. Lei Yuting wailed in grief as her heart broke. Yang Ming replied with a sneer. I have my own plans. This old man means nothing to me. I didn't hope to deal with you so soon. But you even went as far as bringing a second-grade alchemist to ruin my plan. What, do I mean so little to you? Tears streamed Lei Yuting's cheeks. She spat blood again from heartache. Zhou Fan shook his head, unmoved by her plight. You only have yourself to blame. But since he had a play to finish, he still kept true to his role as a healer. Little brother, I have nothing to do with your problems. Let me go, I'm innocent. Yang Ming only laughed. Damn hack, if you were useless it wouldn't have made much difference if I killed you or not. Such a shame you figured out the old man's illness. Illness? What illness? I only thought he didn't move for so long that toxins started to set in and wanted to give him a laxative. Zhou Fan cried his injustice. This is how I earn my meager living. Why? Yang Ming rubbed his forehead. Curses. It's all a misunderstanding. He took the old man as having skills when he was nothing but a swindler looking to earn his next meal. In the end, what skill can a fourth-layer qi condensation old man have? Yang Ming shook his head, regretting his rash actions. He wanted Lei Yuting to complete his job, but now he had to do it himself. Damn hack, you ruined everything. Yang Ming roared. Once I come back, I'll deal with you both. Guards, make sure no one comes in. Yes. Zhou Fan then heard two guards taking positions at the door and Yang Ming leaving. Hey, little brother, I'm not the only one who makes a living like this. Hey, let me go, I'm innocent. Zhou Fan shouted a few more times but didn't get a reply and was certain Yang Ming was gone. He turned to Lei Yuting to find her sitting blankly. She just found out her fiancé was someone else entirely and felt nothing for her. Willing to even kill her. Any girl would feel their heart torn to shreds from this. Rubbing his fake beard, Zhou Fan spoke. You're not too different from my young miss. You should later share each other's pain and learn from them. Humph, later? It's still unclear if we'll survive. Lei Yuting lashed. Zhou Fan's smile brimmed with confidence. It's all going according to this old man's plan. Relax, we're leaving tonight, but if you want to die, you can take your life now of course. After all, you've been discarded. Lei Yuting snapped. If I die, I'll drag you down with me. Zhou Fan chuckled as he closed his eyes, waiting for the night. Lei Yuting pouted, yet she found bickering with Zhou Fan had eased the pain inside and that something faint sprouted. In the dead of night, a crescent moon hung in the clouded sky above Blackwind Mountain. Most bandits were asleep, with the exception of the guards. In the dark cave, Zhou Fan neared the wall and flashed his eyes open as Lei Yuting was sleeping further behind. He pointed and a red light flashed from Lei Yuting's body and floated before Zhou Fan. The blood infant. Zhou Fan didn't trust Lei Yuting even with an agreement in place. So he took Xiao Kui hostage and placed the blood infant inside her. If she made one wrong move, he'd end her in an instant. It was fortunate Lei Yuting's act was in order. But now it was time for blood infant to show its strength. The blood infant was acting as if it hadn't seen its parent for days. Rubbing Zhou Fan's cheek, he smiled for a moment before his eyes flashed with mad killing intent. Blood infant knew his heart desires and flew outside. The thick stone walls didn't hinder it in the least. The mountain forest was particularly quiet at this time and the bandits were enjoying their dreams in their rooms. But a red light flashed inside one of them, only to leave the next second to enter another bandit. The previous content smile faltered and was soon devoid of life. The blood infant's speed was dreadful, cleaning up a room of 20 bandits in one breath. When it left, the room was robbed of life. In the same manner, the blood infant traveled all over Blackwind Mountain, taking every breath of life along the way. Its final stop was the two guards at Mountain Lord's door. Whoosh! One guard saw his partner being assaulted by a red light. Something went inside you. The other guard froze, not getting what happened, but then Zhou Fan's voice came from within his body. Let us out. The guards' hearts were in a panic. Why did the voice of the one trapped beneath them come from one guard's body? Before they could understand what happened, the blood infant dried up its host before the other one's eyes, leaving nothing but dust. It then entered the other guard. The guard was scared to death to the point he lost his voice. It was then Zhou Fan's voice came from inside him. Let us out. It carried with it an undeniable power that softened the guard's knees as he relieved himself in his pants. Lord, please wait, I'll do it right now. the guard cried. Anyone who had seen their partner turn to dust would have no shred of courage left. The guard rushed in tears to open the mechanism. Rumble. The trapdoor opened and light shined inside. Lei Yuting was roused by the sudden light and looked to see Zhou Yifan next to her. If you want to live, come with me. Then he jumped. Lei Yuting was amazed at how he did it. But his words made her angry. Humph. I won't die so easily. She then jumped after him.